Welcome to BoomerWorks. Our mission is to empower in-transition professionals ages 50 plus to shift to freelance and small business ownership as a needed alternative to traditional W-2 employment. My name is Shira Harrington, and today I'll be discussing how to shift your mindset to succeed at going solo. So let's face it, job stability is a thing of the past. Most of us were raised with the idea that W-2 work was the primary and frankly most acceptable way to earn regular income. But downsizing and outsourcing and yes, age discrimination has changed that for many professionals over the age of 50. And the way that I liken it, W-2 work is kind of like putting water wings on a kid when you're teaching them how to swim. You know, they have this false sense of security when they go into the water. They think they're swimming, but they're actually not because something artificial is supporting them. And I think that actually the W-2 workforce, as wonderful as it's been for many people, we're finding now that those water wings are pretty elusive. And when they're taken off of us, unless we have other tools to learn how to swim in the world of self-employment, it can be a big challenge. And that is causing a real emotional shift for people. But just to sort of level set this conversation, there's really been a fundamental shift in the composition of today's workforce. Yes, there's been a lot of outsourcing, and there are statistics that show that up to 50% of today's workforce are comprised of, quote, non-employees. So that could be, those could be consultants, part-time workers, independent contractors, a whole host of types of workers. And many of us who are getting of a certain age need to be thinking about joining that workforce, which is called by many names. Some people call it the gig economy, some people call it the flexible workforce, but no matter how you slice it, it's really being able to earn income organically. And so, thinking about embracing that world means, first of all, understanding what it is. So again, it can be consulting and contract arrangements. It can be part-time jobs, temp assignments, freelancing, side gigs, on-demand work, and of course, owning your own business, depending upon how in depth you want to take it. So look, there are a lot of objections that people raise about going solo. The most common that I hear as a career coach are, my income's going to be unstable, I'm not a salesperson, where will I get the benefits, am I going to have to dip into my personal savings, I or my family, we're going to be, somebody's risk averse in my home, I'm not going to have a safety net. Will anyone want my skills even? I'm supposed to, I'm going to have to suspend my full-time job search, which is actually not true. I'll have no work-life balance. And besides all of that, I'm not an entrepreneur, right? So I hear this all the time. And those in our BoomerWorks community hear this. And this is actually why we created this organization, is to help people really kind of shift their mindset and their skill set. So part of the fear, I think, of embracing kind of this new normal is that for most people, W-2 work was their identity. And you might relate to this, where you have a career path, you have maybe a professional, an industry that you were engaged in for many, many years, and you had the business card, and people knew you as the person who did X for maybe this kind of industry, and you wear that as a very proud label. But now that can get stripped away, and it might even lead you to think that you're not employable, which is not true. That the workforce has very much changed, and some people feel like they're a failure and that they can't get back in, and that's not true either. We have to really stop disbelieving, start disbelieving those lies. People feel like, that freelance work isn't legitimate. It is very legitimate work, and I will tell you that as somebody who's been doing that kind of work for many, many years, this is a very needed service for so many employers because they can't frankly afford to hire a lot of W-2 employees anymore. A lot of times they don't have the need for a W-2 employee. They just need project-based work. They need somebody that they can kind of grab, as they need it and as they need them, and ramp them up. And then when the project's over, they, they'll part ways. But they need that kind of flexibility. Some people who are entering the self-employment world will say, well, what if I don't succeed? Well, what happened when you didn't succeed sometimes in normal W-2 work, right? We have to embrace the ups and downs of life, and we have to embrace those new challenges to say, look, this may be a new learning curve for you to embrace this new world, but at the same time, it's better than not having the income. So now is the time to really start shifting our mindset. Folks may say, well, what if I don't make any money? Well, there is money to be made. Again, we have to be kind of creative in how we think about that. Then folks will, of course, say, well, where do I get started? I don't know what to do. I think I know what to do when it comes to finding a regular job, but how do I get, this sort of side work or actually start a business? So, there are other meetup groups and other videos actually that we're going to be presenting that will address many of those areas. This video today is much more about addressing the high level concerns. And I'm here to tell you that the benefits of self-employment are really unlimited. And this is, again, more to help empower you and encourage you to be thinking differently about self-employment. And then here are a bunch of things you may want to think about. First of all, you have the freedom to reinvent yourself. I mean, when else do you get that kind of opportunity in your life to reinvent? Most times employers are kind of, pigeonholing you and kind of pushing you down and saying, do what we need you to do to meet our business goals. But at the same time, you might have some internal passions that you might want to pursue. And this is the great time to do that. You can control your own schedule. Yes, you can. You really can. You don't have to clock in and clock out anymore. You don't have to be chained to your desk at somebody's whim. You really can have that flexible work-life balance that seemed to be so elusive in the W-2 workforce. You can work whenever, you can work wherever, however. I mean, I kind of say have laptop will travel, right? Have my office in a bag rolling with me wherever I go. Despite what you might think, you actually do have unlimited income potential. That's why our tagline of BoomerWorks now is endless income, simply because we want to make sure that you understand that just because the W-2 employment is fading away, that doesn't mean your income is fading away. If anything, it could be a whole new start to a whole new income stream. And speaking of income stream, let me put an S on that stream. It could be multiple streams of income, and that's very much recommended. That especially as you're getting started, and even as you're full blown, to have multiple sources of revenue. That could be different practice areas, that could be different side work or gigs, as they say. A lot of different ways for you to earn that income. Another side benefit is you don't ever have to deal with office politics again. Yay! As a consultant or as a part-timer or as a freelancer, you're not privy to any of that stuff anymore. You can kind of bounce in and bounce out, and you don't have to get into the fray of it. And most importantly, you'll never have to get laid off again. That's a wonderful thing. If you lose a client, you can get another one. That's the beauty of it. So just as a kind of a basic level here, just to sort of wrap this up, is that there really are three options that you have to generate income as a self-employed person. One is what we call fast cash options. Now, I would just say those are options in a pinch. You got, there's Uber and Airbnb and retail. They're sort of sporadic. They're low wage. They're not stable, frankly, but they could be money in a pinch. Then there's sort of this freelance work, and that's more project-based, it's short-term, it's on-demand, and that one, you're not actually committing to anything in terms of a brand identity. You're simply saying, look, I've got some certain skills. Maybe I've got event planning skills, or I got bookkeeping skills, or writing skills, and I'm just going to farm myself out in various ways to various people using those gigs, and it's okay. It's not anything you have to really commit to, but you have a lot of different options to earn income. And then finally would actually be starting a small business. That really is a commitment. It's a brand commitment. You are naming yourself and naming your company and saying, this is who I serve, and this is how I serve, and these are my deliverables, and the website, and the whole 9 yards, and really kind of jumping into the fold there and showing people that you're here to stay with this business. So as we wrap up here, whether you're watching this video by yourself or in a small group, maybe one of our BoomerWorks meetup groups, I'd invite you into a discussion. Hopefully you can do this with at least another person or maybe a small group setting. And there are three questions I'd like to pose to you for your consideration. And the one is, what are your feelings about transitioning from the W-2 workforce? It can be, again, a scary thing for folks and an emotional place. Some people feel like it's the death of something that they have to mourn for their past, that past experience. And that's okay, but you don't want to dwell there. Right? You want to be a possibilitarian, as they say. You want to be thinking about the future and what's possible, and that there's a huge, huge opportunity for you to earn income in ways that maybe you never had even dreamed about. Another question would be, what are your biggest concerns about self-employment? And they could be part of the list that I shared earlier. Could have to do with your identity or sales skills or risk-averse partner at home or what have you, but what are your concerns? Let's go ahead and just get them on the table. And then finally, thinking future here, what are some practical ways that you can shift your mindset to embrace the journey? And there are lots of ways to do that, but we want to give you an opportunity to really kind of dive in and, again, have a peer conversation so that you guys can support each other and help each other through the journey. So if you want more information about BoomerWorks, we are at boomerworks.org, BoomerWorks.org, and to reach us, info@boomerworks.org. Look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.